TNT is now officially set to take legal action against the NBA after being spurned in their media rights deal. What could this bring about for the NBA? And will TNT be successful in trying to take the NBA to court over their television rights? We'll talk a little bit about that. Plus, Paul George and Joel Embiid talking a little stuff about the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And Stephen A. completely and utterly kills Ben Simmons. We're going to get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to the number one place for your daily basketball news and analysis, NBA Central.
What's going on, basketball fans? Welcome to another episode of NBA Central, your number one spot for everything basketball related. I'm the host here, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at NBA Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that being said, let's go ahead and get into the content for today, y'all. And so we got to start off talking about this TNT thing. It's really turning into Adam Silver in the NBA versus TNT after the NBA accepted Amazon and Disney's deal for streaming media rights, which was a $77 billion deal for the NBA, which was crazy. The WNBA is also involved in that as well. And the ESPN stays at the A position in that, meaning they're still going to have the primary picks of the games that they want to air. But in this, after the proposal was made by Amazon, TNT matched it, and apparently, according to their contract with the NBA, they had the right to match any media rights deal to try to keep the NBA on TNT. Well, the way things have gone now, the NBA looked at that. They said that they don't feel like TNT's deal quite matches the offer that they're getting from the partners they decided to go with. Well, today, a little less than an hour ago, TNT is now officially decided to go with legal action, saying this: given the NBA's unjustified rejection of our third-party offer, we've taken legal action to enforce our rights. We strongly believe that this is not just our contractual right, but also in the best interest of fans who want to keep watching our industry-leading NBA content with a choice of flexibility we offer them through our widely distributed WBD video-first distribution platforms, including TNT and Max. So now it's official. After it was kind of released, everybody, expected TNT to maybe take some legal action. And the bigger question in this now is, what will the outcome be? What once it goes in front of the legal system, what will the outcome be? It's very, very unlikely that they're gonna force the NBA to air games on TNT. It's something that they can do, right? Let's be clear. It is a possibility that they could do that, but it's probably not going to happen. The fact of the matter is, as long as this is going to take, while it is not taking hold through the 2024-25 season, that will still remain on TNT. Is that things are going to be in place. Companies are going to start hiring hiring broadcasters, things like that. Things are going to be in place. It's unlikely that they're going to force the NBA to take TNT's deal, but this could end up in TNT getting some type of monetary gain out of this. Not saying that this is their goal or anything like that, but it is a possibility for that. And of course, with TNT going away, that means the Inside NBA crew is going to go away, even though reportedly Amazon is prepared to offer the whole crew of Inside the NBA deals to come over to TNT. But it just seems like it's not going to happen. This is not the thing that's going to come down for it. And it's unfortunate, right? Inside the NBA has become really an institution when it comes down to it. Even Charles Barkley saying this: clearly the NBA has wanted to break up with us from the beginning. I'm not sure TNT ever had a chance. TNT matched the money, but the league knows Amazon and these tech companies are only ones willing to pay for the rights when they double in the future. The NBA didn't want to piss them off. It's a sad day when the owners and commissioners choose money over the fans. It just sucks. And a lot of people do share that mentality and that mindset that the NBA right now may be choosing their pockets over what's best for fans. But here's what I'll say. The NBA is a business, and it is a corporation above all. And they do owe it to their holders and everything like that to make the most money possible, as well as that does end up via the CBA eventually trickling back down to the players. So the NBA owes that. And streaming rights are a huge thing as well as now and in the future. And partnering someone with like Amazon, right, and having that over the internet broadcast is going to be a huge thing. And Amazon, for their credit, is really going hard into sports already with football and things like that. And so Amazon is going to be very aggressive at getting more sports over into their networks, into their broadcasts. And that's just kind of the next thing with it. And unfortunately, in a lot of ways, TNT kind of bit themselves in the ass in this. And I want to be clear. There was an executive with TNT, I think it was about a year ago, maybe longer, that mentioned how the NBA wasn't even the biggest part of their sports portfolio. And I do believe that people, whether it's Adam Silver himself or executives at the NBA, they remembered that, right? And while TNT does have other things, they do golf, they do tennis, they do other things, right? When you hear that, hey, it's not the biggest thing. All right, let's go with somebody who's going to make us a priority, right? If that's the perception that you want to give off, we don't have to keep our sports here on that channel. Now, like I said, it sucks. Overall, you would have loved to see TNT be able to roll into that package to where maybe not as choice games, but some games still air over in TNT so you can keep the inside the NBA broadcast, which has been around for almost 40 years, things like that. All those type of things, you want to try to keep that if you can, at least if you're looking at it from the perspective of TNT. But the NBA and the media rights for sports, this is going to be the next kind of battle. As when you look at all these streaming services and sites and how now they're starting to basically operate as what old TV used to be, right? As far as cable television, where you're getting like Hulu, ESPN, and Netflix packaging together on some deals and things like that. So I'm sure TNT and Warner Brothers wanted to be able to keep and even offer their HBO Max service to be where some games could get broadcast and things like that. Ultimately, the NBA has made its decision. But the thing that's going to be interesting for this, and it's probably not going to be a quick decision made for it either unless they settle out of court, is that it's just going to come down to the NBA. It's going to have – the NBA is going to have to, in front of court, talk about the advantages that Amazon gives them over something like TNT. And Amazon is a space that skews younger than what TNT – like outside of sports, TNT is airing Law & Order episodes – Vegas episodes, things like that in syndication. So, ultimately the NBA went with the thing that's new, that's fresh, and that more people have. Keep in mind, who doesn't have Amazon Prime? There are very few households probably that don't even realize that they have Amazon Prime because they probably look at it like, yeah, we get it to have better shipping, but you have all these shows and everything now so that's over there. And so Amazon is really growing as a broadcast partner overall, right? And so having sports there, that's going to be a big thing for him. And it's unfortunate that this is the route that it had to go. Not had to, but that's the route that it ended up. But that's just where we are when it comes down to it. So overall, we're moving on. It is what it is, and we'll see how this continues to develop as a story. With that said, let's get off of this drama. Let's get back into basketball, which is still some drama. So recently, Joel Embiid had a comment in which he said this: "I'm probably the most hated guy in the league. I don't know why. I'm just cool. I don't know what's there to hate about me. I feel like a lot of people can relate to my story and what I've been through." And here's the thing: is Joel Embiid hated? Yes. I'm going to say absolutely yes. It is what it is when it comes down to that. I do think that Joel Embiid gets a lot of criticisms that are just, right? Especially when you look at the injuries and things like that. A lot of people hold that against him because he's not healthy when it counts the most, when his team needs him, things like that. He always has a nagging injury or something that limits him. But to act, like I've always said this when it comes to criticism of players, a lot of times the criticism ends up going too far left. You'll take legitimate credit. It'll start in a legitimate place, and then it'll end up going into a place where it becomes kind of overstated, right? Joel Embiid is one of the best players in the game of basketball, period. When you look at even last season, only playing 30-something games, he was on an MVP pace while playing that. When he's on the court, there's not really much that you can knock on Joel Embiid when he's on the basketball court because he is just that good. Look at last year, almost 35 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, almost 6 assists on 52% shooting from the field. Joel Embiid is great, always averaging at least a block and a half per game as well over his career. Joel Embiid is a great basketball player. But when it comes down to it, the reality is, no matter how fair or unfair or whatever it is that if you're not on the court when it matters the most and your team can't get over the hump, even with some players that are healthy and their team can't get over the hump, when you're looked at, especially as a player that has won an MVP, that is going to be an MVP candidate, and you can't get your team over the hump, that's always going to come with its fair share of criticisms. There's no way around it. You cannot separate being a great player from the criticism that comes when the games matter the most and you're in the postseason. You cannot separate that. And so when you look at it, the 59 games that Joel Embiid's played in the postseason over his NBA career, it's just not enough, right? And that's what it comes down to. And make no mistake about it, Joel Embiid is great. He's amazing. And for the people that just hate on Joel Embiid or try to act like he's overrated or anything like that, to me, that's just a bit of an overstatement. Joel Embiid is absolutely amazing and dominant. But the question isn't how dominant he can be if he's on the court. The question has become now when it comes to Joel Embiid is how much can you be on the court, and can you be on the court when it matters the most? And hopefully the Philadelphia 76ers are looking at that as well. We've talked about it on previous episodes how, with now you adding the depth to the Philadelphia 76ers with getting Andre Drummond there. And while, yes, you can play some of Embiid and Drum together, hopefully now having a player like Drum, who's been in Chicago the last few years, barely averaging 18 minutes per game, he's ready to go and average more minutes per game, because if you can get Joel Embiid some rest during the season, not to say rest him for whole entire games, but if you don't need him in that fourth quarter stretches, if you have a team that's good enough to get over the hump and win some of those games without Joel Embiid needing to be the savior in the fourth quarter, and Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, these players step up, that's what you want to see to maintain the health of your team. And hopefully overall having a better team and a deeper team as well contributes to that, right? And the Philadelphia 76ers are a franchise that have made their mistakes over the years, right? I still think them choosing Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler was definitely a mistake in the long run and in the short term. But when it comes down to this, Joel Embiid, you're great. And everybody knows you're great. Whether they want to admit it or not, they want to hate, they want to follow the story, whatever it is. Joel Embiid is a great basketball player. But you got to be on the court at the right time. And I'm sorry, I hate to say that, and I hate to, if it makes me sound like a dick or whatever it is, but you need to be on the court. And so I would love to see Joel Embiid finally have a dominant playoff run. That would be so great to be able to see that, right? To have a dominant playoff run and to take your team far. Hell, get to the NBA Finals. A Joel Embiid that makes it to the finals would be crazy. It would be bananas. But to say that you're the most hated, I don't know if I'll get to that. I do think that there is some unjust hate that comes. But make no mistake about it either, Joel Embiid. Being a star, a superstar in this league, it's going to come with its hate, it's going to come with its naysayers, and it's going to come with people who downright disrespect you. And unfortunately, that's just part of the game. That's in every sport. Being heavy is the head that wears the crown. And Joel Embiid, if you want to wear that crown, you want to talk about it, it just comes with the story. And I'm not saying it like he's trying to say like, woe is me or whatever else it is. I don't know the nature in which he meant it. I didn't talk to the man. But ultimately, it comes with the territory. And there are players that are a lot worse than you that get a lot of criticisms themselves. You think your greatness isn't going to come with criticisms? It is. And injuries are a thing that are uncontrollable, and I get it. And I'm somebody who I don't necessarily hold a whole lot of injuries. It's not like players want to get hurt, right? But it's still, at the end of the day, your story is going to be told. And that story is going to be told, and injuries are going to be a part of that story. And that is something that you have to look at fixing in yourself. You got to fix it, Joel Embiid. And so let's hope that Joel Embiid can do it, man. Listen, I love Joel Embiid as a player, as a personality, as much as he killed my team, the Chicago Bulls over the years. Like, Joel Embiid is a star in this league, but we need those stars that matter the most. You can't keep being a falling star. You got to stay in the shine, in the sky. You got to shine. And so let's hope that what this Philadelphia 76ers have done have fixed that and help that get on that path where we can talk about a Joel Embiid who's now going through a deep and long playoff run. That was a bit of a pause bar, but it is what it is there. Now, Paul George has also been talking as well, in which he was talking about leaving the Clippers, and he said something that got a kind of people talking a little bit, saying this. I think initially coming back to L.A., that was home when I first came back. It's not the same love because I was in LA. They was like, man, you should have been a Laker. I'm on the B team. That's the vibe. That's how the vibe and the love felt. Listen, I mean, calling the Clippers the B team isn't a surprise. And for anybody who lives in LA, they know like getting somebody in LA Clippers tickets is almost looked at as a knock. Now, hope maybe with them going to the new stadium, maybe that changed and stuff, but that's always going to be a Lakers town. If it came, most people had to pick between the Lakers winning the title and the Clippers winning the title, they're going to pick the Lakers every single time. Now, with that said, I'm not saying that justifies everything and all the view on it, but him going to the Clippers never turned out the way that anybody wanted that thing to turn out. It just didn't. And now you're faced with moving on. And, he moved into a situation that he feels is better for himself. He said this, definitely looking forward to coming to Philly. My family's looking forward to it. We felt that this was the best and next step in the phase of my career. I thought everything was just aligned perfectly where they're at, where they're trying to go, and where I'm trying to get as well. I think we got a real legitimate shot. And that's the thing that everybody's wondering and questioning is how much where do the Philadelphia 76ers really rank in the East? Now, we can talk about on paper and all this all day long, but the games are going to be told soon, right, once the season starts. And so the 76ers have to, I think with the moves that they made, they won 47 games last year with a roster that had some big questionable pieces on it. Now, this roster, I think, is clearly better. I think that they've added depth where they can as much as they can with how much they had to revamp and overturn that roster this offseason. They've brought some key players back that did play well for them as well. But when you look at it, of course, the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks I have right up there, the Milwaukee Bucks, and I can't even put the 76ers over the Cavs right now until I see this new team and know that Joel Embiid's going to stay healthy. But they definitely have a chance. And I would not be surprised at all if this thing meshes and fits well together, and if Maxey and Paul George really can play well together and we have relative health for this Philadelphia 76ers team, that they can really turn into something. But again, I'm not going off the vibes. I'm not going off the ifs, right? Let's start seeing how it's going to play together. And there's going to be doubt around this Philadelphia 76ers team for basically the entirety of the season. Unless they just come out absolute killing it and looking like dogs, there's going to be doubt around this Philadelphia 76ers team. And we'll see if they can overcome it. I like this Sixers team and squad for what it is. I think that they've built as good as what you can do with how much turnover that they've had on their roster as well this offseason. And they really use almost every asset to the best of their ability when they went out and tried to build this roster. And, for that, I like what they've done. The Andre Drummond pickup is a really big pickup that I really like for this team because of how it helps Joel Embiid. Caleb Martin, an ultimate role player, right? He's just a role player that just understands his role and how to be effective in that role. Of course, we know what Paul George is. Maxey getting his extension, things like that. And then you got Eric Gordon coming off the bench. You still got Kelly Oubre Jr. on that team as well, right? You still got players on this team that can definitely help and do some things. And let's hope, and I'm sure the Philadelphia 76ers and 76ers fans are hoping that the sum of the parts outweigh what you're looking at and that they're much better than what they were last season. And I guess we'll see. All right, the next topic before we go, Stephen A. Smith, man. Killing Ben Simmons. Here's what he said in regards to Ben Simmons. They talk about mental health and mental illness, and it's a legit thing in this world. I do not want to hear about Ben Simmons. It was no mental problems when it came time to cash the checks. It was no mental problems when you were sitting on the bench in street clothes trying to look like Zoolander, the modern day male model, with your Cartier shades or anything else you were rocking. You wanted to do everything but play, treating playing basketball like somebody was asking you to get on the front line of war, but never ever failing to pick up your check. Ben Simmons severely disrupted the Philadelphia 76ers franchise, and the same can be said for what he's done in Brooklyn. Listen, you're talking about cooking. Stephen A. Smith completely and utterly destroyed Ben Simmons with those words. And the fact is that it's all facts. It's all facts, right? I'm a big mental health advocate. I do not want to overstate that. Like, I'm somebody who mental health is an important part of life for me. I've had to go to therapy, and I am a big proponent of people going to therapy. But Ben Simmons and what he is and isn't able to do, man, it's just been crazy. Ben Simmons was on such a trajectory where at some point a lot of people looked at this guy as he's next up. He could be a great player, right? You look at that 4-year stretch with Philly and the numbers that he put up. He played amazingly well. And, yeah, he had big, major flaws to his game. The dude shook and trembled anytime he thought about shooting a three-pointer. We all know that, right? But when you look at his facilitating, what he was able to do with his size, the defense that he was able to bring as well, getting steals, right? The passing that Ben Simmons had as a big man. It's just 6'10", 240 pounds of nothing right now. And that's unfortunate because Ben Simmons was a skillful and talented player. Then you look at it. Since he's been traded to the Brooklyn Nets, he's played a total of 57 games over 2 years. 57 games. And this is after sitting out the entirety of the 2021-22 season. He came back in 2022-23 to play 42 games, started 33 games, only averaged 7 points per game, 26 minutes. Then last year playing 15 games for that same Brooklyn Nets team, started 12 of those. Ben Simmons, there's no way to chalk it up by anything else that his career has been an utter and disappointment and failure. That just is what it is. The last 3 years of Ben Simmons' life, that's wrong, of his basketball career has been nothing, a nothing burger. And so you want to see more for Ben Simmons because you know that there's more in him because we've seen him perform before. We've seen him do it, right? To getting to the point where crowds are absolutely losing their shit if you make a three-pointer, Ben Simmons needs to get his life together. And that's something that I hope to see from Ben Simmons at some point. But get this, he's 28 years old now. I'm sorry, but we need to start realizing that the game is probably past Ben Simmons up, and we're never going to see Ben Simmons reach that height that it looked like he could reach at one point in his career, and it's over. It's over, and that's perfectly fine. I guess it sucks for the Nets franchise. It sucks for the 76ers who, you know, they still got a nice deal back for him, and they end up getting Harden, whatever it is there, right? But it's disappointing how Ben Simmons went, and it just could have and should have been a lot more. It is what it is there. Now, last bit of news before we get up out of here. The Denver Nuggets have officially now signed Russell Westbrook to a 2-year, $6.8 million contract. This is per Shams. The second year of Westbrook's contract contains a player option, so he'll decide if he wants to become a free agent again at the end of this season or not. But this is all but expected. The Nuggets bolster their bench, get a player that can still be pretty productive off the bench for you, and I think he can maximize his role. I think we've seen role players really thrive. I think the way that Jokic plays and the minutes he's out there with him as well could really work. And Russell Westbrook is now going to a team in the Denver Nuggets where he's going to be looked at to help kind of anchor that bench that's lost a lot of key role players in KCP and Bruce Brown over subsequent years. You now have Russell Westbrook on that team full of some kind of young players, Julian Strawther, what he turned into for that team and things like that, right? So we'll see. But they're hoping that Russell Westbrook is going to bring a much-needed punch off their bench, and we'll see if he can do that. But I'm overall positive still on the signing as I was when it was rumored that, you know, when he got bought out and expected that he was going to go sign with the Denver Nuggets. Still like this move for both sides, and let's just see if it's going to be fruitful. But that's my time for today, guys. Make sure you guys are following the show at NBA Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, NBA Central Show at gmail.com. And then lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the number one spot for everything basketball related, and I'll see you guys the next time I do a video, probably tomorrow. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.